Hey, I'm going to be really quick, simply because I think Revelation 17 should be expounded upon in a group setting, where there's dialogue, where there is a group of individuals who are interested in both learning and teaching at the same time, where there is not this competition of teaching, but rather there is a spirit of everyone is eager to learn, and that there is an understanding of um, that even in comments being made, that people's comments can sometimes be questions. And so I won't stay on this topic long because I need your help. If you are interested in having that kind of dialogue, please comment in the comment section and we'll pick this up again. But really quick, there are a few things that I want to point out to you about this revelation as it pertains to the Juxtaposition of Being Human series. This chapter is actually one of the chapters that inspired me to write the Moms Ministry, because I felt like often things that were evil were characterized as feminine. And that characterization can lead to a culture that is effeminate, that hates the source of their being. It hates women. Or it sees or perceives itself as greater than women, or women as being less than. And I think that sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, we have done that. We have created a space where we can secretly hate women, both male and female, can secretly hate women. Now, John the Baptist has written Revelation, and John the Baptist, as you know, is a wilderness preacher. Wilderness, we learned, was not just a place, but it was also a way of thinking. It's a psyche, and it's a psyche that is derived by actually living in the wilderness. Quite often, I believe that women are not given full authority or full space to become without being scrutinized and fully judged harshly, in a way that can damage who she is to become for the rest of her life, whereas men are given a lot more opportunity to become, and a lot more coddling, if you will. And I think that kind of society creates what we see here in Revelation 17. And so in the first, I'm going to stick with verses 3 through 6. Those are the verses that I want to focus on for today. But what this is talking about is a full abomination. It's a full turning away from what is right. And I don't believe it was ever God's will for there to be this thought of hating women. But it is, we see it as almost like as the residue of the original sin, where, Adam said, "This woman you've given me." And I don't believe that thought left Adam, because we're told in Genesis 4, he ate in sorrow. And also we see that there's sorrow in Eve. So there's this disconnect within that union where there's supposed to be a evenly yoked union. Revelation 17 shows us that when disconnect is already there, this is what is birthed. So this type of woman that we see in Revelation 17, she comes from the wilderness. She's had to make her adjustments in life, similar to how men make their adjustments in life to live and to survive in the wilderness. But she's called a harlot. And I am not saying, I'm not arguing with the scripture. I'm arguing with the way we see and we think and we look at women. But in this scripture, there's valuable lesson to be learned. I want us to learn from the symbolism here. This particular woman in the scripture is inconsistent. In verse 4, we see that she's arrayed in purple and scarlet color. And if you compare this woman with the Proverbs 31 woman, who is dressed in purple purple being the color of royalty and also symbolizing courage. But the courage of each woman comes from something different. The courage of the woman in Proverbs 31 comes from the fact that she serves. And so her house is dressed in scarlet, meaning they're dressed warmly. They are taken care of. So she and she served, but she also serves. This woman here in Revelation 17, it looks like she is the queen. She's wearing royal colors, but she's also wearing the colors of the servant. So although she's sitting on top of the beast is still her master. And so her ways, the wisdom in which she moves, is counter to the way Christ would have us to move. And that's why we see that the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus are in her cup. Actually, that's in verse 6. And that verse is what caused me to consider demonic oppression as being what we see in Genesis 4. There's a verse in Genesis 4 where God says to Cain, the blood of your brother cries out from the ground. And that led me to believe that that was a sacrificial killing. Those who are farmers or who own farmland or who raise cattle, there are certain cultures that do believe in sacrificial killing of animals. And I happened to see a TikTok last month where there was an African man who said that his people have to slaughter because once they slaughter the animal, whatever animal it is, the blood is allowed to drain into the ground. It seeps into the ground, gets into the atmosphere, and goes to God on their behalf. And so I believe Genesis 4 is the start of that belief, but I don't believe that that is how God intended for us to live. Now, we do see different sacrifices being made throughout the Bible, and Jesus is supposed to come as the ultimate sacrifice. But I don't believe that God ever wanted us to sacrifice to him other than sacrificing our lives, meaning living a life that was acceptable. And so this woman here in Revelation 17 lives a life that is counter to the life with which are the life that we should live. I don't want to go too deep. I don't want to go too much into this because, again, I would like to discuss this with some people. I would like to discuss the kings, the horns, the heads with people, and I'd like to look at that from a lens of hypermasculinity and even toxic masculinity and even toxic identity. So not just men having toxic identities, but sometimes women having toxic identities as well. I'd like to have a discussion about that. I think that that would be a better way and a more beneficial way to handle Revelation 17. So let me stop there. I think that's a good stopping point. Let me stop there and just again ask that you will comment in the section below if you'd like to take part in that type of discussion, and maybe we can just do like a joint Facebook Live. And I am all for an organic discussion. I may put together some questions that I send to you all beforehand, but I would not want to know what your answers are beforehand. The goal in this conversation would be for people who genuinely like to learn from other people who also have a way of teaching that allows others to hear and be heard. I'd like for some folk to get together to discuss that in the context of this lesson, the juxtaposition for being human, or of